Hey everybody, today we are going for a little history. We're going to be going to Point of Rocks, right at the edge of the Maryland border, just across the way from Virginia. And we're going to check out the C&O Canal. We visited there once last year. We'll put a link to that previous video. There's also going to be a link at the end of this one. It's a rainy, cloudy, cool day. So we're just going to make the best of it and show you a little bit of history, and it's going to be kind of fun. The interesting thing about Point of Rocks here, little tiny town in Maryland, in between Frederick and Hagerstown, but it has this beautiful station, which is among the most photographed stations in railroads across the country. And this was an important point where the C&O Canal and the B&O Railroad converged and passed through a very narrow section known as Point of Rocks. There was a battle over who had the rights. Eventually the folks who owned the C&O Canal were awarded the rights, but said they had to allow the B&O Railroad to get through here as well. So it's very interesting history here. And a lot of cargo went through here. Today, commuters mostly go through on the MARC trains. The station was completed in 1876. It's been restored once or twice. It was hit by lightning in the 30s. It is currently owned by the CSX Railroad Freight Company, and they have tried to keep it up, but they are not known for keeping up all of their historic structures along their line. So some are concerned that at some point this building could be sold to who knows who, or razed, or what have you, but pretty neat bit of history. It's been around about 142 years now. This historical marker gives you a pretty good idea of the locations of some of these things in this area. The C&O Canal here, right adjacent to the line, and here's the tunnel that was built to run adjacent to the other railroad line, and here's how that railroad line looked before they built the tunnel. The tunnel eventually would go right through this area, but had not been built yet at this area, and they just had the one line that was going around the outside of the cliff. A lot of history, two lines converging in this spot, and there's a tunnel further beyond. It's quite a bit of railroad history that's gone through here. Hopefully sometime soon we're going to go check out the B&O Museum in Baltimore, because that would be kind of a fun bit of history to check out. You can see right here by the B&O Railroad is the lock house. Right behind me here is the Lander Lock House. That's Lock House 29 along the C&O Canal. This is milepost 51. 51 miles down the C&O Canal. It's pretty cool. This is where one of the locks used to be. There would be a lock keeper that lived in that house, and when the barges would come with the mules, the lock keeper would come out, fill the lock or lower the lock, and send the barges on their way down the C&O Canal. Of course, this bridge wasn't here, but the barges would come right down this way, and there would be gates here that would close off this section, and they'd lower the water level, and then the boats would continue down the canal right down this way. And right here off to the right is the towpath where the mules would walk pulling the barges. sections of the canal have water in it at this time. As you can see right along here, most of the canal around this area, there is no water. But in certain sections, they have restored water, and you can actually go through one of the C&O locks. So right here, we're walking along the towpath, and right down here is the remnants, the path of the original canal. These days the C&O Canal is very popular with bike riders as well as hikers. It's 180 miles of canal towpath that you can walk or bicycle along, and it's just, as you can see behind me here, it's a very pretty area. As you can see, right across the canal here is the Point of Rocks B&O tunnel, which is created to give a little more room between the railroad and the canal, and it was built just after the Civil War. And just as a reminder, they really don't want you to be trespassing on the train tracks and into the tunnel, and then a train comes and you get killed. This is bad news, so stay off the tracks, stay out of the tunnel. So now we're going to walk. It's about a half mile down the towpath here. Going to take a quick stop by lock 28, which is one of the locks you can actually stay in. If you go onto the National Parks website, you can check out the different lock houses that are available. You reserve them just like you would a hotel. Not all of them are open year-round. The amenities differ quite a bit depending on the location. Some are very rustic. No indoor plumbing. Maybe there's a portalet outside. The one we're going to up here is one of those rustic ones. It's about a half mile. You can go get some well water if you're thirsty. So it's pretty rustic. But they also have one or two that have indoor plumbing and electricity, and you can basically stay in the lock house for the night right along the towpath. Beautiful place to walk and sort of see what it was like to live right along the C&O Canal back in the day. Only you don't have to fill the locks and open the gates when the mules and the barges come running by. And here we are, arriving at Lock House 28 along the C&O Canal. Here's our historical marker with some leaves to give you a hint as to what time of year it is. Lock tenders would get a small monthly salary and an acre of land. They had to supplement their incomes, usually put a garden plot that they could cover some food on the table. Women baked bread or pies for trade. So here's the lock as it appeared years ago, and here's the lock house today. And right here is the canal, and there's the lock. Here you can see a picture of the railroad operating right next to the canal when it was in operation, and how close they were running against each other. It would be pretty cool to stay in one of these lock houses, I think. Of course, you might have to convince your wife or girlfriend it's okay to stay here and this is your bathroom for the night. Yeah, even if you have to get up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m., that's your bathroom. And I believe at this one, it's about a third of a mile to the nearest potable water where you can get some water if you didn't bring some, and if you didn't, you're not prepared. Our last stop on this C&O Canal journey that we've taken today is the Monocacy Aqueduct. It is the largest of 11 aqueducts that were built over the canal back in the 1800s. This one was built in 1829, finished in 1833 at a cost of $127,000 in 1800 years. It suffered a bit of damage during Hurricane Agnes in 1972, but through restoration work, they've restored it to its original look, and it's a real beauty. It's the longest. It's 516 feet. It's the longest of any of the aqueducts along the river. The piers are 10 feet thick, and most of the construction is with granite stones that were moved from nearby Sugarloaf Mountain. And so this section here would be filled with water, and all the barges would be coming through here so that they could pass over this creek. And right over there is the towpath that the mules would walk along. So I hope you've enjoyed the little journey here we take along the C&O Canal. We saw Lock House, seen a couple of locks. We saw the largest aqueduct along the path. Cool bit of history. You can really go down a rabbit hole looking at the research, the history of the C&O Canal and the B&O Railroad. So as always, kids, thanks for joining us, and remember, have a good time all the time.